for this webinar, and we're excited you're here with us today. Irv Brechner is joining us today. He's going to present our content today on paid search marketing. He's an expert in the space. He's done it for a long time, and we're excited that he's with us and that you've all joined us today. To give you a little bit of background, we have this webinar series every Thursday at the same time, same place, so join us. We won't be having it next Thursday unless you want to join us for Thanksgiving. But we typically have them every Thursday. So thank you for coming, and thank you for supporting us with that. We try to make the content useful and informative and effective for you. I do want to extend an offer and make some announcements before we begin. So I'm going to start showing my screen now. Hopefully you can see it. And the first offer I want to extend just is for a free trial of our product, Log My Calls. If you're interested, go to logmycalls.com/30-day trial, and you can try our product out for free. Now with that, I do want to introduce our presenter today because we're very excited he's joined us. Now, Irv has been a direct marketer his entire life. He really pioneered online customer acquisition in the mid-'90s. He's an expert in the space. He's written several magazine articles. He's published magazines. He's written books on the subject. And right now he serves as an executive vice president at Acquirgy. And they're really a leading paid search and DRTV firm. So we're very excited he's joined us today. I think this presentation is very compelling in terms of the content. I've seen the slides, and they're very good. So we're excited he's with us today. And with that, I'll turn some time over to you, Irv.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it and looking forward to it, as you are. We, as a little background, have been doing direct response TV customer acquisition for about 25, 30 years. And this is our 10th anniversary doing paid search. And one of the things we learned early on is the tremendous symbiotic relationship between TV and search, which we'll touch on later. But most importantly, we've learned 10 key lessons in our practice, and it seems like there's been zillions of keywords and billions of ad groups and copy and so forth. And on the very top level as a backdrop, we've learned that paid search really is rocket science. Some folks will have you believe that it's very easy to do and it can be automated, but as you'll see, it really requires a combination of people and machines. Requires a lot of attention to detail because there are so many details in terms of copy, in terms of analyzing ad groups and so forth. And it's a constant analysis of results. It's not just one time and let it run. And we have a lot of continuous proactive testing because you're in the direct response space. We like to say that the day you're done testing is basically the day you retire from the industry. We're always testing. And search gives us the unique ability to test and analyze and tweak and revise pretty much on a daily, if not hourly basis. So given that backdrop, let's talk about our 10 lessons that we learned, actionable items that you can implement today. So the first one is a term we coined, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago called Humanology. And
what is this? Hey, Irv, let me ask you a question real quick. When I first saw this, I was confused as to like, that's an interesting way to put it. Tell us exactly what that is and how that works.
Sure. We found that you need to have a right balance between technology and people. At one end of the spectrum are people that are managing search 100% on spreadsheets. They're doing everything using people and no technology. At the other end, you have people that are attempting to do paid search 100% technology, where they throw in 1,000 keywords and hope that the algorithms in the search program will manage everything efficiently. We found that the best combination is one where you recognize that computers are good for things like numbers crunching and data manipulation and reporting, and people are great for strategy, copywriting, keyword development, analysis, and decision making. Once you recognize that, it becomes a lot easier to become very efficient and cost effective by placing your limited resources into the things that are most important, such as strategy and copy, and not have to worry about numbers crunching. That's why you want that unique balance. That's pretty much what Humanology is all about.
Now tell us about the search continuum, because I'm guessing with Humanology the critical element is finding that mix between tools and humans. But what are you talking about when you say the search continuum?
Well, basically, you have to realize that search is simply a lot more than keywords and the response ads that come up. You have to take into account that consumers at every stage through the search process have specific expectations that must be met with relevant copy. So if someone puts in caveman Z44 cell phone as their search term, they are looking for an ad that addresses that specific cell phone model. They're not looking for an ad that's general about cell phones or even about caveman cell phones. They've identified a specific model. So that's where you can see on this example the importance of copy relating to the search term. The copy that you see here is very relevant, and it meets the expectations of the consumer who put in the search term. But it doesn't end there. When somebody clicks on that ad, that consumer has a new expectation of going to a landing page or a website that has information about the search term, in this case the caveman Z44 cell phone. They don't want to go to a page that talks about all the cell phones that are in the world or all the caveman cell phones. They want to go to the page that has specific information about the model they inputted when they typed in the keyword. So that's the continuum, keyword to search engine response ad to website or landing page.
And do you see that a lot of people make mistakes when they it's sort of a, I don't want to use the word term bait and switch, but maybe the ad speaks to one specific offer, but then the landing page is not, the messaging isn't clear, the search continuum isn't full?
I see that all the time, and it's surprising after the search being around since for at least 10, 12 years. And I think it's a function of a couple things. A lot of people that do search have limited resources. It takes a lot of time and effort to write copy that's specific to each keyword or ad group. It takes a lot of resources and expertise. And many people that I've spoken to that do search also wear other hats. They may do other forms of advertising with their company, and they may only have an hour or two a day to devote to paid search, and therefore they're limited in what they can do. The other reason why this tends to happen, where you find generic copy in response to specific searches, is either folks don't know that it's important that search copy relate to the keyword, or they're just don't have the time or even are lazy and want to take the easy way out. What we found is that conversions dramatically increase when everything along the continuum is relevant, and when it's not, they decrease. So it becomes a case of wasting money if you don't do it right.
And I've seen a lot of landing pages, as you obviously have as well, and one of the mistakes that I often see and sort of breaks the search continuum up is it's almost like people are trying to do too many things with their landing pages when after people click through to them. I mean, do you see that as well? Do you think sometimes we put too much copy on them or too many random things that aren't really serving the focused purpose of getting them to do the one thing they clicked through to do?
Yes, the hallmark of direct response is to focus on what action you want the consumer to take, which is clicking on your ad instead of somebody else's, and getting to a web page and quickly purchasing a product or signing up for an appointment. One of the things that we'll talk about today is the product consideration cycle, where you want to target copy based on where consumers are in their purchasing cycle, whether they're at the very beginning just starting to think about it, or in this case they've already chose a manufacturer and a model and they're basically ready to buy. Okay, so it's very important to understand the necessity to take into account the way consumers shop for products when you develop your keywords and your ad groups.
Well put. The next slide we've got here talks about using the right technology, because I think a lot of people, maybe they know how to do paid search on a basic level, but perhaps they aren't managing it with the right tools. Talk to us a little bit about that.
That's very true. We manage some pretty big clients that have hundreds of thousands of keywords, as well as smaller ones that only have, a couple of thousand. And about, I guess, 4 or 5 years ago, we did a very thorough search of all the technologies that were out there, and based upon our needs as an agency, we licensed Marin software, and we've been thrilled with the performance of that tool, and we become kind of a partner with them where we make suggestions on how they can improve their software and evaluate what they've done to enhance it on a regular basis. But it's critical to understand everything that the search platform technology that you use can do and be able to master all the functions, because as you get deeper and deeper into managing your program and it grows over time, you want to be able to take advantage of all the different aspects of search software. The more robust the platform is, typically the longer it takes to learn, but the greater benefit you can derive by slicing and dicing data in ways you can only imagine. So while Marin may not be right for everybody, it's right for us and a lot of medium to large size companies. There are low-end programs. If you have a small search program that might be okay for you. But it really is worth taking the time to understand what these platforms can do and how they can fulfill the technology side of the Humanology phrase that we talked about a couple of minutes ago.
And these platforms, typically what they do is, my understanding anyways, they just simply help you manage your campaigns more effectively. You can create copy and creatives through them. I mean, give us sort of the quick overview of what programs like this actually do.
Okay. Well, they certainly enable you to set bids based upon individual keywords or ad groups so that you can maximize your ROI and profitability. They enabled you to determine what keywords, how they're performing. You can do an A/B test on copy, so you can have 2 copy blocks, and the technology, the platform will tell you which one is a winner. You can enable the ability to turn keywords on and off based upon time of day or day of week. Those are just a few of the many, many functions that these platforms can do. But they're all aimed at giving you, the developer of the program, of the search program, and the people that analyze the results, the best possible data to make your decisions on what you do next. That's very important because once you set up your program, you have to analyze the results pretty much on a daily basis. And with the right platform that's been fully integrated into your search program, you can make decisions on the fly that can result in much greater profits and sales.
Now, you mentioned obviously one of the focuses of any campaign should be the ad groups and the keywords. Talk to us about that a little bit and some of the best practices, things you've learned.
Certainly. One of the things that I've observed when talking to new clients and potential clients is how, unfortunately, poorly ad groups and keywords are organized. And this could be because of lack of knowledge or any other reason. But we found that so many companies have a very small number of ad groups, and they have a lot of keywords in each one of them. And that's really not the right way to do it, because a keyword, think of a keyword as a group of words, an ad group rather, as a group of words where you can analyze the ROI and set the bids and write copy that are germane to that ad group. So we espouse having a large number of ad groups with very small numbers of keywords in each one. If you have 1,000 keywords, rather than having 1,000 keywords in one ad group, you may want to have 50 ad groups with an average of 20 in each. That enables you to set different bids for each ad group and write different copy for each ad group. Because in general, very unfocused general copy rarely works, and highly targeted, highly focused copy works very well. Using our example from a couple of minutes ago of the Caveman 44 cell phone, you would not want to have a generic copy when somebody has searched on that keyword. You want to have copy that's specific to that brand or that model. So if Caveman has 32 different types of cell phones, you want to address them in 32 ad groups so that you can highlight the benefits and features of each group or each cell phone individually. That's pretty much how ad groups and keywords work. Small number of keywords in each ad group as opposed to large numbers of keywords in each ad group.
Okay, that's great. Because one of the things that we've heard and seen and over the last several years is this focus on several channels of advertising. So you can't just focus on paid search or just focus on your website and here you have an example of how direct response TV and SEM work together. Talk to us about that and what you've seen in terms of these platforms sort of working synergistically, for lack of a better phrase.
Sure. Actually, it's a good phrase. This is actually one of my all-time favorite topics to talk about because I've seen the incredible impact that media, other than search, has on search. And because our agency does a lot of direct response TV, and because TV is so powerful, we've seen an extraordinary relationship between DRTV campaigns and SEM activity. And we've documented this in several, one or more white papers, and we see it every time we run a TV campaign, we see how search is impacted. And one of the things that happens, and I'll explain this little chart in a minute, but imagine that your company, people in your company, one group of people are running your TV campaign, another are doing search. And perhaps there's, like in most companies, there's not much communication between those two groups. So, search is going along at a certain level, let's say 100 orders a day, and then all of a sudden the TV campaign starts. And the TV media buyers keep track of how many orders come in by phone and how many orders come into the website, but they know very little in general about how TV impacts page search. So let's just assume, to make a simple example, that when a TV campaign starts, the search activity increases by 50%. So now 100 orders a day goes to 150 orders a day. And the search people, because they're not really in tune with TV, are saying to themselves, we are great. Look at all this incredible activity that we're generating, all the sales we're making by paid search. And the other side of the company, the TV media people, because they don't track orders that go through a search, they're scratching their heads and saying, well, this TV program, this campaign doesn't seem to be working. We got some phone orders and we got some orders direct to the website, but it's not enough to continue, so therefore we may have to cancel the program. So imagine that you're the CMO of this company, and your search people knock on the door and say, hey, look how great search is doing. We want more money to spend. And then the next group of people that comes in says, hey, this TV program's not working. We've got to reconsider it. And if you're the CMO and you don't recognize the impact that TV has on search, you could be canceling something that's actually very profitable. And you could be pouring more money into something that's not really that's profitable on its own, but it's being made profitable by TV. Have I explained that?
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, tell us about this chart here. This is kind of interesting. Talk to us about that.
Well, this is an actual campaign from 2011 for one of our clients, And what we do is we benchmark the search activity prior to launching the DRTV campaign. And then we plot a graph that shows the DRTV media spend, which is the blue line, and sales resulting from search, which is the brownish line. And as you can see, the two are pretty much parallel, that when TV media spending increases, search sales increase. When it drops for whatever reason, maybe on a certain weeks of the year, we tone down the TV for whatever reason, then the search sales and the search activity decreases as well. So this proves, and this is one of many, that DRTV has a major impact on search. But it's not the only media that impacts search. We've seen when companies do a major catalog mailing, their search activity increases. When they do a mass newspaper or print campaign, their paid search activity increases. So it's critical to understand that your offline media impacts your paid search, and even more critical to figure out how to track it. Because at the end of the day, going back to the example, the DRTV media people need to know how many orders came in by the phone, direct to the website, and through the search channel. That's the only way they can analyze whether or not the TV campaign is being productive and effective. That's why it's critical that if you do something other than search in your company, as a search manager, you need to make sure you're getting all possible intelligence from your colleagues. Another thing that happens is when we do a TV commercial, we actually create keywords based upon the wording that's in the TV commercial. We buy keywords for the company name, the product name, and even buzzwords that we use in the TV commercial itself. So imagine if the TV people didn't inform the search people that a campaign was running or about to run, and the search people could not choose keywords that relating to that campaign. People would be searching for words that you weren't bidding on, and you could be losing them to competitors. So to wrap up this particular lesson, number 5, and the impact of media on search, it's critical to understand the relationship between offline media and search, track it, and have constant communication between your search team and other teams to make sure you take full advantage of merchandising opportunities that exist when offline campaigns are run.
That's great info. Tell us about this one, the product consideration cycle. This, I'm guessing, has a bit of about writing copy and things like that.
Sure. Consumers go through a series of steps when they buy a product. It's not always the same depending on what they find out, but typically for many purchases, especially big purchases, they begin by gathering information, okay? So when they're in that phase, they may type in keywords like cell phones or power generators or sweaters or whatever they're looking for. Very general words. And if you're doing search, you should be writing copy that provides information and links to a general discussion of what they're looking for. When they move throughout the cycle to evaluation of options and buying decisions, you want to tailor your copy and keywords to those specific cycles. So for example, when people go beyond gathering information and they decided to get serious about their purchase, they begin to evaluate their options. Okay, but at this point, they don't need any more basic information. They need more detailed information that's going to help them make up their mind whether or not, and you know, we had obviously a bad storm here recently in the Northeast, so everybody's out there buying generators. So you want to evaluate your options in terms of, should you buy a small generator that will only power lights in your refrigerator, or should you buy an expensive one that will turn power onto your entire house? So that's an example of evaluating different options. And then when you get into the buying decision, you're really looking to a couple of things. You're looking to what specific manufacturer and model of the product you want to buy and what the price is. So you want to be able to write keywords and copy for someone that's already decided that they want a power generator. They've already decided they want the top of the line that will power their entire house in the event that the power goes off. And because I happen to be looking at this right now for our house, one other option is that it could be connected to your natural gas line. So all you got to do is flick a switch to turn it on. You don't have to put gas into a generator and hook it up to extension cords. So all those different processes you go through, the keyword ad groups, the keywords you choose, and the copy you write, you get the best results when they relate directly to the specific stage of the cycle that the consumer is in for the product that they're considering to buy.
That's great. Lesson 7 is the art of search copywriting. I think people often overlook this, in my opinion, or maybe you can help us on this as well. But in our experience, a lot of people overlook this and focus more on the bidding and on the technological side than on the human side and on the writing. Talk to us about that.
Well, I think that while bids and bid management is very important, we tend to think that copy is one of the primary drivers of paid search success. And I've developed this little nomenclature called encourage and discourage that describes exactly how you need to write copy to maximize conversions and not waste money. It's very important because if you write copy the wrong way, you will spend a lot of money and waste it. So think of it as your copy has to do two things. It has to encourage consumers to click on your ad versus all the other ones that are on the page. Let's talk about that for a second. When you put in any search term, you'll see organic listings and paid listings. And on any given average page, there's probably 15 or 20 different entities that are bidding on the same keyword or that have been found by the spiders for the search engines on the same keyword. Whether or not every one of those is a direct competitor, because keywords have different meanings, everyone is bidding on that keyword and they're all your competitors. So you want to write copy that encourages consumers to click on your ad instead of your competitors. But on the other hand, you want to discourage consumers that are not likely to convert. And while that probably seems totally the opposite of one another, encouraging and discouraging simultaneously, I'm going to give you an example that brings that to life. So let's say hypothetically that you are selling, McKay, expensive men's designer suits that cost $1,000 and up a piece. And you have a website where you're selling them at a 50% discount, and you got a ton of different sizes and colors and styles and brands. An inexperienced copywriter might write copy along the lines of men's suits 50% off, hundreds of colors, sizes, brands, and styles. And that would get a tremendous amount of response, because who doesn't want to get a suit at 50% off and have it choose from a big selection? But most of those people would not be able to afford a $1,000 suit, even if it's been reduced by 50% to $500. So if I were writing that ad, I would say men's imported luxurious designer suits. I would add words that scream luxury and high price in order to discourage people that can't afford a $500 suit. And words like luxurious and designer and imported all mean expensive products, or in this case, expensive suits. So when you add that type of copy, the number of clicks you get dramatically decreases, but they're the most qualified. So you've encouraged people to click, but you've discouraged all the people that can't afford a $500 suit not to click. So what you end up with are the most potentially qualified consumers that can afford to spend what you're charging and that are most likely to convert. And you haven't wasted a lot of money on people that can only afford a $200 suit. That make sense?
Yes, that does. That makes perfect sense. In terms of strategy and how you deal with your competitors, there's sort of two schools of thought, right? That you sort of, if they're advertising for certain keywords, you should too. But I suppose there's the other strategy of, you find more niche keywords if they've already established a presence there. Tell us about the competitive strategy you would typically employ.
Well, the strategy that we really focus on is the copy. And if you do an analysis on the HP 95 ink cartridge, here's a couple of different results that you'll see. We've done a lot of work for 4 inkjets, which is the bottom one. And the only way that you could really compete on a search page where it's a pretty level playing field, unless you have a great brand name like HP does, you need to look at what other your direct competitors are saying in their search copy, okay? And if you look specifically at this example, HP talks about that it's the official site, okay, official HP 95 cartridges, and that they've got a couple of other links where you can find the 95 and paper and so forth. The second one, which is Office Max, which sells HP, they're using a pretty generic ad that doesn't address HP 95s, which is, in my opinion, not a good thing. And For Inkjets is doing a very good job because they're addressing HP 95 ink cartridges, and they're introducing a price of only $10.99 with get same-day next shipping. Okay, so what they've done is they've looked at the other competitors on the page, and they've crafted their search copy to give them an advantage. Okay, but when a consumer sees only $10.99, they pretty much are going to say, well, that's got to be a lot cheaper than if I get it from HP Direct or from Office Max. And hey, they have same-day shipping. That's great because I need this stuff because my printer is running out of ink. So by highlighting copy that competes effectively against other companies on the page, they've given themselves a significant advantage. You've got to look at everything that the other competitors are doing and then create your copy strategy effectively. If all the people on all the companies advertising the page were talking about same-day shipping, then for Inkjets or any one of these companies may need to come up with a different strategy. Okay, but in this particular relatively simplistic case, you can see that the For Inkjets company is competing successfully on price and shipping by the way they've done it. You can also see that there are yellow stars for both Office Max and For Inkjets, and they both have pretty much the same, very similar number of reviews. Obviously, consumers like to review products and see what other people have to say about them before they buy. So having 4.5 stars reviews and letting folks know that you have them is a sign of credibility because, well, everybody knows who HP is and almost everybody knows who Office Max is. The For Inkjet's name is not nearly well as known as the others. So you've got to do everything possible in your copy and on the web page to give customers a great feeling as to why they should order from you. And having done a lot of work for Inkjets, they're a very reliable company. They've got great products, and they compete successfully on the search page, search results page, through their copy.
Okay, that's great. Linkage. Tell us what this is.
Well, this talks about where consumers go on your website when they click on your link in your search ad. This kind of goes back to the search continuum that we talked about about 20 minutes ago, where the consumer has an expectation when they click on a link that they're going to go to a web page that talks about the product. So in this particular case, for the HP95 inkjet cartridge on the Floor Inkjet site, this link takes them right to the page where they can buy the remanufactured HP95 tricolor cartridge. They don't have to waste time searching for it. They're not taken to the home page where they got to figure out where to go to find the HP95 cartridge. They're taken to the exact page where they can simply type a number into the box next to add to cart and be done with their purchase. You'd be surprised how many companies send people to a home page on a very specific search because they either don't have the resources or for whatever reason they haven't set it up so that the consumer is taken to the best possible, most relevant page on the website for that specific search results and keyword.
This goes back to what we were talking about a moment ago with landing pages, about how they need to be focused. But I guess what you're saying is the first step is you actually need to have them, and then they should be focused and to the point and useful.
Now, if your search program is done correctly, probably 90% or 95% of your entry points into your website from search will be on all the inside pages, the category pages and the specific product pages, and not your home page. So if you're sending a huge percentage of your potential customers to your home page and not all of your inside pages, you could be losing them because, you know, consumers today, they're very time stressed. They want to make their purchase quickly. They don't want to be bothered trying to figure out, well, gee, I got to this site, but where do I go to find the exact product and model and manufacturer that I want? They just want to get there. And remember, consumers are always a click away from your competitor.
And then this one goes back to the copy that you were talking about a moment ago and making sure it's very specific and relevant to the visitor. Right.
And, you know, it's a very good example to look at search ads where generic copy is used versus specific copy for the same keyword. And we just use the same example again since hopefully you may be a little bit used to it having seen it in the last couple of slides. The HP95 ink cartridge, when a consumer searches on that keyword, they're looking for something very specific. They know the manufacturer, HP, they know the model number 95, and they know it's an ink cartridge as opposed to some other type of ink mechanism. So when you see an ad for Office Max that says HP toner at Office Max, which is probably of a generic copy that's used for a wide range of HP products and not terribly focused, initially the consumer is going to be confused. Well, I'm interested in HP95 ink cartridge, but why am I seeing a response for HP toner? The last thing you want to do is confuse people. Now, some people know that ink cartridges and toner is used interchangeably, but there's enough consumers out there that are going to be confused and turned off by it, and they'll look to the very next competitor that says HP95 ink cartridge. That talks only about that specific manufacturer and model of the product and is very specific. So if you're a consumer, you know, which one would you choose? Unless you're predisposed to choosing Office Max for some reason, but putting that out of the equation, simply on the basis of relevancy, which one would you choose? You would choose, obviously, the one that is most relevant to your search term, simply because you know that you're going to get the best results that way, and not have to wonder, well, why are they talking about toner when I want an ink cartridge? Pretty much one of the summary points before we get to the last couple of slides that pertains to this one specifically is that the more I analyze what companies are doing, the more amazed I am that things like generic copy is still being used on very specific product searches. If search is a big part of your your company's acquisition plans and you're spending a lot of money, you've got to find a way to get the resources, and whether it's outsourcing some part of your program or all of it to an agency that's set up to develop hundreds of thousands of keywords and write copy, whether it's splitting it up between some tasks that an agency does and some that you do in-house. You got to find the right balance to take advantage of it, because anytime a consumer clicks on your search ad and doesn't convert, you're wasting money, and in many cases you can control why they're searching on copy. They've clicked your link but they don't convert. Having the ability to do that because you're getting all the, quote, grunt work done professionally in a way that's going to maximize results gives you the ability to analyze the top-level aspects of what's going on in your program. So that's why it's just critical if there's a couple of things to leave you with before we take questions and answers. It's understanding the importance of relevancy in everything that you do, and that when consumers do a search, they're very, very busy, they're anxious, they have a set of expectations. And the more you can meet their expectations with relevant ads and copy, the greater your conversions will be.
Now here's two questions before we close, Irv. The first is sort of just I think a statement for me, and then the next two will be questions, is it seems like the whole focus of what you're saying here is there needs to be, we're talking about being specific and being targeted. So if the search term is for, a very specific thing, you need to make sure your ad copy and your landing page speak to those things. It seems like that's sort of a theme carried throughout your entire presentation about being specific and making sure you're giving the searcher exactly what they were expecting to get.
That's absolutely correct. The only time when that's not terribly true is if you recall the product consideration cycle, where the consumer is at the very beginning of the stage of thinking about a product. There they're looking for general information. But for every other aspect of the product cycle, then specific is better than generic, without question.
Okay. Okay. And then a couple of additional questions. You talked about using keyword group. You talked about grouping keywords and ad groups. Explain to us how that works again, because you suggest using fewer keywords in the groups, correct? Tell us exactly, go through that again if you can, just briefly, about why that's important and what that helps with, I suppose.
Sure, and I'll illustrate that with an example. If we go back to the example of McKay's men's suit store, let's say you carry, to make it very simple, two different brands, okay? Typically, you might have 20, 30, 40, 50 keywords for each brand that talks about the brand name and the fabrics they use, the designer, and so forth. If you mixed them all together and had one ad group that covered your two brands, then you couldn't really be specific in talking about designers of men's suits, whether it's Joseph Abboud or Ralph Lauren or any other. You'd have to write copy that's generic, that talks about all the different brands and styles that happen to be in that ad group. But if you created one ad group for Ralph Lauren and one for Joseph Abboud, and talked about in your copy and on the landing page the specific virtues and values and design statements from each of those brands, it's now much more relevant to the consumer. Now imagine if you're selling 100 brands, okay? You don't want to talk about all 100 brands in one ad group as if they were all the same, because men's suits or power generators or cell phones or flat screen TVs, all the different brands have different features, and the models have different features as well. So you want to be able to break them down into a number of ad groups. One is as specific as possible. So you might want to have an ad group for the Samsung flat screen TV model, and I'm making this up, XP20, because I don't know them offhand. And the XP20 group of keywords would be relevant to that model and have copy that's germane as well. That would be different than a JVC or a Motorola or any other flat screen manufacturer that may have different functions and different capabilities and therefore need different copy. That's why having a large number of ad groups with a small number of keywords in each so you can target the copy effectively. But also, equally important is being able to manage the bids correctly. Let's say that you're a retailer of flat screen TVs. You may have a 20% margin on one brand and a 40% margin on another brand. Well, your ability to manage the keywords in different ad groups gives you the capability to maybe bid a little bit more aggressively on the brand where you're making 40% as opposed to the brand where you're making 20%. So you recall we talked about the right platform to use. You can, on some of the programs or some of the platforms, enter your margin and have bids based upon the margin of your product so that you can maximize conversions by spending a little bit more money on advertising products where you have a greater margin.
Okay. Now, in terms of tracking, a lot of the companies we work with will actually associate specific phone numbers with PPC ads, and then be able to track phone calls directly from the PPC ads. How critical do you see that? I mean, obviously it would depend on the business model, but how critical would that be as compared to or in addition to sort of your regular quote-unquote web tracking?
Right. Well, it's obviously very critical as direct marketers, and basically anybody that does paid search and wants to have a desired outcome is using a direct marketing or direct response function. Even if you're a packaged goods company and don't think of yourself as direct response, the fact that you're using search to generate a response, you are. And the hallmark of all direct response people is tracking and analyzing data. So since consumers that see a TV commercial or see an ad in a magazine or get a catalog, they have numerous ways to respond. They can pick up the phone and call, and many consumers still do that, even in this day and age. They can type in the URL of the website and go right to your site, or they can do what we call media-driven search, where they hear a keyword on a TV commercial and they type that keyword into Google and they get to your site and make the purchase that way. It's very critical to understand that you can't control, nor would you want to, how consumers respond. So if on any given day I feel like picking up the phone and talking to a human being to understand a little bit more about a product before I buy it, I may do that one day. And the next day, if I'm buying an ink cartridge where I know exactly what I want, I may simply go right to a search engine and type in the keyword phrase. So it's really important to understand how holistically how media, keywords, ad groups, copy, and landing pages work. Because if you don't understand that and embrace it, you're without question leaving money on the table.
Okay, that makes sense. Let me ask you this final question here. In terms of the focus that you guys have, do you guys skew in your business more towards the TV side, or do you do more paid search?
Well, for every one of our TV clients, we either are directly involved in the paid search campaign and manage it, or we work with their existing search team that is often in-house. Because what you want to have happen is you want the DRTV media people and the search media to be on the same page. And that's really the role of the CMO to make sure that happens, to make sure that any intelligence about when TV campaigns are going to run, what they're going to be about, the wording that's in it, the script and so forth, that the search people have that so they can create specific ad groups for a TV campaign, okay, and include the keywords that are in the script.
Okay.
I know that on the screen now you have some of the resources, and before we wrap up here, I developed the Intel Center at Acquirgy which talks about or has about over 100 different resources, including what we call green papers, green being for money, of course. And we have an ebook library as well. And here are a couple of the links where you can find some of these things that are directly related and relevant to today's webinar.
That's great.
We actually did an ebook with you guys that was very well received, and we enjoyed doing that. So you'll find that one in our library. And the more you learn about the impact of offline media on search and how to develop a search campaign and program that takes full advantage of human brain power and technology, the greater your success will be.
That's great. Well, and we thank you for taking the time today, Irv, and we thank everybody for joining us and for your questions today. We really appreciate it. I do want to make sure you guys go to the resources on your screen here. They're free information that you can use to improve your search and improve your cost per acquisitions and things like that. I also want to let you know of, again, our free offer. If you're doing paid search, my alert keeps popping up there. If you're doing paid search, it is very critical to make sure you're tracking everything you could possibly track, and that includes phone calls. So I would encourage you to sign up for the free trial. Now, we don't have a webinar next week because of the holiday, but we will have one the following week. And then we take a couple weeks off for Christmas before we move into the new year. So thank you for attending our webinar today, everybody. A special thanks again to Irv. Thank you for your time today. We appreciate it.
It was definitely my pleasure.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody, for attending. And until next time, just continue to keep us our marketing webinars on your docket and on your calendar. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.